Hey look, I know it's an insane video title, but I'm going to tell you a story in my life about 3 years ago of how I watched this anime, Bocchi the Rock, and how it impacted me in a way where I genuinely felt God speaking to me through this anime, and because of that, I was led closer in my walk with Christ. Let's start with Bocchi the Rock itself, and how I found myself really relating to Hitori's character. We're introduced to this girl who's been a loner all her life because she hasn't learned any social skills. She can't make any friends, very socially awkward, and that's the first piece of the puzzle. I felt such a relatability in my own walk where it wasn't as extreme as that I had no friends, but outside of the friends I already had, I was really socially awkward towards everyone else. I was absolutely terrified with meeting new people. I hated small talk. I couldn't really chat about anything else outside what I was already obsessed with, being history and politics, not to mention the fact that I was watching this anime at a time when I had already left high school and I was making a conscious effort to not really follow up or catch up with my high school friends for reasons which are complicated and I don't really want to outline them on a public platform. I was in a place where I was just like Hitori Goto, socially awkward, having no real place to belong to, and it's no surprise that as I continued to watch this anime at this time, it's not an exaggeration to say that she was literally me. So then the first episode continues and Hitori watches the TV and sees an introvert talking about how a band is a place where an introvert can shine. She then takes inspiration from this and decides to learn how to play the guitar for the purpose of trying to find new friends, but sadly, as much as she did want to form a middle school band, she was still too introverted to reach out to anyone, and we meet her at the start of high school, still friendless. However, she did create a YouTube channel where she rose in popularity, and she's at least finding some form of community on the online world. Now, this is where relatability really peaks, because it was also during this time where I decided to create a YouTube channel, and while it was on a different topic, namely to discuss anime and its connections with the Christian faith, I was kinda also finding community online too, namely on right-wing Annie Twitter, where I met a bunch of very kind people who were part of my life back then and still kinda are today, though the parallels between me and Hitori don't stop there. Continuing in the first episode, Hitori tries to create situations for people to come up and talk to her by wearing different things to school, because she's saying in her mind, I don't actually have to talk to people, all I have to do is wear interesting things and then eventually someone will just come to talk to me without me having to talk to them. And of course, it totally works out for her and someone definitely talks to her by the end of the day. Now, this is where we get to the God speaking to me moment, and I'm not exaggerating as I say this. The next scene involves Hitori going out and feeling dejected as she's been unsuccessful in finding someone to talk to, and she's sat out here in the playground being depressed when a random stranger comes up to her shouting out guitar, and by some miracle invites her to act as a substitute guitarist and play along with this band. I have to really emphasize the fact that this was a miracle where without this chance encounter and without the intervention of Nijika, Hitori would have also stayed alone as an introvert for the rest of her life. The series would not exist without Nijika. Hitori then unwillingly joins this band because she's so socially awkward that she doesn't have the willpower to actually reject Nijika's offer. She's then come to music practice and ends up as the guitarist to this band. Now, the reason why I relate to this situation is because it's certainly how God treated me and the different people who I started to meet and become new friends with. And it could only happen because of a miracle for which only God could have orchestrated. There were so many Nijikas in my life who reached out to me, who wanted me to be a part of their group, and this was the method for which I was able to find community. For an introvert like me to have been so socially awkward, to not really take the initiative of my own strength and my own effort, this anime really spoke to me as a way of God showing me for what he did for me. It was as if he told me, that's you, podcast son. You are Bocchi, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change your life in the same way that Bocchi's has as well. I, of course, did not play guitar or join a band or do anything really music oriented, but the same concept of introvert finding a community which they so desire is the point I want to get across, because I experienced how God brought me into the church community, put all of these Nijikas around me, then for me to have been brought into such great fellowship and friendship with these newfound Christian brothers and sisters. When God does something like that for you, what else can you do other than fall deeper into his open arms and draw closer to the love for which he so generously gives. I cannot fully put it into words, and it could never be enough that my gratitude for his love, grace, and mercy upon me for having done this in my life, and for him to have spoken through this anime too, is absolutely, like, I cannot put it into words. Which is why I feel compelled to continue to serve him on an individual level. This is the reason why we as Christians seek out and do good things. It's a very Protestant thing to say that our good works don't save us, because put it simply, we could never repay the debt of the sin that we have towards God. However, it is because Christ has done this for me that's the reason why we as Christians then impart our love upon other people. It's the reason why I feel so sympathetic to those just like Hitori, just like me, who are socially awkward, and I feel because God reached out to me that I absolutely have to reach out to the people who don't quite know how to make friends themselves, who are just like Bocchi. God's love for which he imparted upon me is the reason why I continue making videos for this channel, to share that same experience that I had through this concept of a Christian anime, that God can speak through different anime, that our interpretation of any form of media shouldn't be limited because of what a couple of bozos in academia or media literacy people might say, because theology and the Holy Spirit has authority which far outweighs the media literacy people. Now, coming back to Bocchi the Rock, the best part of this anime is just seeing how Hitori has grown from lacking the initiative in trying to attempt to make friends, to then really try-harding and making her friends like her, to then her actually talking normally to these new friends she's found, to then really finding confidence in herself and placing faith in people, that they aren't just there to make fun of her, but people can be truly nice and there to respect and support her, to the point that she's an integral part of this band. She's still an introvert at heart, she's still socially awkward, yet by the end of the anime she's grown so much, and the relatability between her story and mine just resonates so much with me. As I rewatched parts of Bocchi the Rock for this video, I laughed at so many of the jokes. The way that Hitori acted was still relatable because I looked on as a member of the audience and I chuckled to myself, because that's how I used to be. A kid who was scared senseless by the notion of talking to people. Yet I sit here 3 years on from my past self, and I too look back to how far God has taken me. Yes, still an introvert at heart, yet God has brought me so far. Though I think the cherry on top as to why this anime still really sticks with me today is because this was my first viral video on the channel. I'm not super proud of it today because it has plenty of flaws, and I now have a completely different way of writing my videos, but it still sticks with me because I know some of you guys watching were subscribers from the early days of the channel. I reflect on the channel of the past 3 years now. I reflect upon the story of Bocchi the Rock, and then I look at my own life of the past few years, and I have nothing else to do other than to be thankful to the God who has led me down this path. I still have plenty of ambitions ahead of me. There have, of course, been mistakes, but I look forward into the future with great excitement for this channel and what God has in store next. If you're interested in more of this concept of a Christian anime, then this playlist here is just for you.